Hello everyone, the Snowman here, back with part 2 of an 8-part preview series on the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Today's subject is the 4 teams that make up Group B. Please check out my Group A preview as well, along with my other World Cup content too. But for Group B, we'll dissect how these 4 countries qualified for the World Cup, along with some key players, coaches, and my expectations for each team. And the 4 teams in Group B are as follows. England looking to become World Cup champs again after a 4th place finish in 2018 and then runners-up at the Euros last year. Iran back in their 3rd consecutive World Cup. The USA is filled with some fresh, hungry young faces, and then Wales qualifying via the UEFA playoff. And most eyes in Group B will be on England, semi-finalists at the World Cup in 2018. They'll look to make it one game further in Qatar. No major adversity for the 3 Lions during European qualification. They went undefeated, 8 wins and a couple of draws against Poland and Hungary. Harry Maguire had a late winner in a key 2-1 victory over the Poles at Wembley. England capping off their qualifying campaign in emphatic fashion with a 10-0 destruction of San Marino. Striker Harry Kane scoring 4 goals that day and leading the way in all of UEFA qualification with 12 goals. Of course, Kane, the reigning Golden Boot winner from Russia 2018. He'll be important. Kane could become England's all-time leading scorer during this tournament, but I want to highlight Jack Grealish, the 27-year-old Man City winger. Grealish was disappointing for the most part in his first year in Manchester, but he and Raheem Sterling allow England to play a more expansive, creative brand of football that they'll need this World Cup. I just think the ceiling is exponentially higher with Grealish playing well. We saw in the Euros last year, round of 16 versus Germany, Grealish playing a key role in both of those goals that downed the Germans. He's a fun, lively, technically prodigious player, extremely nimble and agile with the ball at his feet, adept at winning free kicks and attacking areas. I've got high expectations for the most expensive English player in club football history. And the steadying presence of Gareth Southgate will be felt in the English dressing room. Manager of the national team since 2016, the former defender and midfielder has led his nation to some fantastic achievements thus far. We talked about 4th place at the 2018 World Cup. Under Southgate, England was undefeated at Euro 2020, only losing a penalty shootout to Italy in the final. He's a very clear-sighted leader who signed with England until at least December 2024. As for my expectations for England, they'll have their sights set on the final. Most bookkeepers have them as 3rd title favorites behind Brazil and France, and I guess that's fair. I might have them 4th or 5th, but the makeup of the team is pretty balanced. You've got experience, talent, and leadership in all 3 phases of the pitch. I would be concerned as an England fan if they don't win this group with ease. They're about a minus 300 favorite to win Group B, so around 75%. They did struggle recently, though, in the UEFA Nations League, a 4-0 loss to Hungary at home, their worst home defeat since 1928, but England should at minimum be making the quarters, and if it's France, then we can reassess before that monumental clash. On to the United States and their qualification out of CONCACAF. It was a mostly tidy campaign, especially when you put it up against the tragedy in Trinidad and Tobago from the last World Cup cycle. The U.S. finishing up in 3rd place. They were outstanding at home, 6 wins and a draw, a signature 2-0 victory over the Mexicans in Cincinnati on match day 7, and they ended up punching their ticket to Qatar on match day 13 in Orlando. That game, a 5-1 conquest over Panama. Captain American Christian Pulisic scoring a hat-trick that evening, and the U.S. back at their 11th World Cup after missing 2018. The scoring was mostly spread evenly in qualifying, 11 different scores for those 21 goals, although Pulisic did lead the way with 5. The best player may be Pulisic, but Tyler Adams isn't that far behind. He'll be a key anchor for the American midfield. Adams, 23 years of age, 3 seasons in the Bundesliga with Leipzig before moving to Leeds United in the Premier League this offseason. He's particularly important for the U.S. because of his ball-winning skills, his tackling, positioning, and organization from the center of the pitch. I think there's a lot of exciting pieces in the attacking half for this team, guys like Weston McKennie and Yunus Musa, but Adams will be the one to provide stability in the middle. Greg Berhalter is the head coach of the United States. He took over in 2018 after the debacle that was qualifying for the 2018 World Cup. The ex-UNC Tar Heel and former Columbus Crew manager has already helped steer the American Outlaws to a couple of major trophies under his stewardship, the 2020 CONCACAF Nations League and then the Gold Cup last year, an event where the U.S. went 6-0, knocking off Mexico in extra time in the final. Expectation-wise, I feel like the U.S. should be building up to the 2026 World Cup on home soil. They have such a young roster, so many budding stars. The average age of their outfield players in Qatar will be among the lowest for sure. I love how many of these guys are playing in Europe too. A massive amount of representation from the Power 5 leagues in Europe in this squad. Hopefully they can at least make the round of 16 and get some good knockout stage experience with this nucleus. I would consider that a positive run. The good news for the Stars and Stripes, in 2 previous World Cup meetings with England, they beat them in 1950 and that 1-1 draw in South Africa 2010, powered by a Clint Dempsey long ball. The U.S. will be aiming to win their first knockout stage game at a World Cup since 2002. The third team in Group E is a very entertaining, very passionate Welsh side back at their first World Cup since the year 1958. They had that magical run at Euro 2016, but this is a long time coming for Wales and their supporters. They did it the hard way going through the UEFA playoff. Second best in Group E qualifying behind the Belgians. They did falter to the Red Devils 3-1 on match day 1, but went undefeated the rest of the way. Both playoff games were in Cardiff, so the energy was electric. Gareth Bale scoring a pair of goals in the 2-1 semifinal win over Austria, including a free kick that can absolutely take your breath away. An emotional 1-0 win over Ukraine in the playoff final. Again, the Welsh back in the World Cup for the first time in over 60 years. And who else to talk about as a key player but the one and only Gareth Bale? The 33-year-old forward is by far Wales' all-time leading scorer, fresh off winning his 5th Champions League title with Real Madrid. He's taken his talents to the MLS, now playing for LAFC. If you ask me, Bale still way too good to be playing in the MLS, but that's another story. He's been the leader of his national team for so long now. Whenever they need a big goal, he delivers. Maybe he's lost a step in the speed department, but Bale can still produce world-class runs. He's a threat to score from anywhere on the pitch, especially set pieces. As always, Wales will go as far as their captain, Gareth Bale, takes them. The Welsh manager is Rob Page, one of the younger head coaches at the World Cup at 48 years. Took over the job from Ryan Giggs in late 2020, helped lead Wales to the round of 16 at the Euros last year. Page had been in charge of Wales' U21 team before that. He's known for positioning the fullbacks high up the pitch and providing width in the attacking third. And just like the U.S., Wales will be expecting to make it out of the group stage. In fact, they have nearly identical odds of finishing in second place, so round of 16 is the target. I'm probably a little biased, but I'd put the Americans just a hair above Wales. That being said, it could very easily be the 2 European teams coming out of Group B. I'm just not in love with Wales' recent form in the UEFA Nations League. 3 defeats in June. They'll have to pick it up come November. Finally, we get to Iran competing in their 3rd consecutive World Cup and 6th one all time. And that first table was the second round of Asian qualifying, where they finished on top, scoring a spectacular 34 goals in 8 matches. Then in the 3rd round, the goal totals went down, but they still won a remarkable 4 games by a score of 1-0 to finish in first again. Just one lone defeat to South Korea. They're a very solid team that doesn't make a ton of mistakes, and I actually don't think they'll be as much of a pushover in this group as some people think. Iran will be trying to advance out of the group for the first time in their nation's history in Qatar. A couple of real difference makers up front, Mehdi Taremi of Porto and Sardar Azmoun of Bayer Leverkusen. Azmoun is a player to get really excited about, 27 years old, but he made his senior national team debut at age 19, has already played in 2 Asian Cups, and this will be his 2nd World Cup. The youngest Iranian to score in a Champions League game, also the most Champions League goals for an Iranian all-time with 6. Azmoun is a player who can turn a game on its head with a moment of magic, very creative, quick bursts of acceleration. He'd be my key player to watch out for. The manager of Iran is a Croatian, Dragan Skocic, so the one manager in this group that isn't the same nationality as the team he's coaching. Iran's head coach since 2020, a good bit of experience coaching in the Iranian domestic league. Skocic has a pretty stellar record as Iran's manager thus far. In 18 matches, he's got 15 wins, 1 draw, and just 2 losses. losses, but of course the games will be much more difficult this winter. Speaking of which, calling Iran anything less than a major underdog in Group B would be stretching the truth. The odds are severely stacked against them. I just hope they play brave, adventurous football. They should have plenty of Iranian supporters at these finals, with Qatar being such a short trip away, so that'll definitely help. Again, it's a long shot they make it out of the group. I think if they get any points, let alone any win against these three teams, they should feel an enormous sense of pride. They're one of the best that Asia has to offer, but I just don't think it'll be enough to contend with England, the US, and Wales. That about wraps it up for my Group B preview. Thanks a lot for watching. Please leave a comment. Let me know who you think wins this group, and please, follow along. Subscribe to the Snowman Sports Media for more soccer and football content, and check out my other World Cup group previews as well. And should be back very soon as we ramp up for this FIFA World Cup in November and December in Qatar. So, cheers.